down to the sons, and in the morning. We will remember them.
Some fantastic ceremonies there for Anzac Day right around the VAFA. Hello and welcome to VAFA Tragics. Huge show to get through today as I welcome Brenton Mann. Brenton, what is your takeaway from the weekend of football?
I think I attended 3 games over the weekend, and no one does the Anzac Day ceremonies and spirit better than footy, so it was a fantastic weekend.
It was a great weekend. Marty Callagher, welcome to you, and Michael Fitzgerald. Great to have you on the panel again. What was your takeaways from the weekend?
Well, unfortunately, the game I saw ended in the wrong result, not the one I was looking for anyway, and as such, I've had to come on here, as was the bet, wearing the De La Salle jacket. The second part of the bet was that it had to be Marty Callagher's jacket, and it is a little trim on me, I've got to say.
You're looking very sharp in the royal blue and gold there, Fitsy.
Well, yes, let's make sure it doesn't happen again.
They've got stripes, mate. They're flattering too.
Fantastic, indeed.
Marty Callagher, what did you love about the weekend of footy just gone?
Old-fashioned footy in many regards, wasn't it? It was great to see the ball below the knees and tough, contested footy. It was great. It was absolutely terrific. And Anzac Day, I think all the games that we saw, all the games that people attended, no doubt, were all played in the right spirit too, which I think is great.
Yeah, I think it was. It was a really good commemoration of the day. More on that from me later. But it was interesting. I noticed in a few of the videotapes I watched, the rain seemed to be fairly localised at times. I know at Turak Park it basically didn't rain all day until the last 10 minutes, but yet out at Carey it was an entirely different situation.
Let's start our look at the round at Turak Park, where I don't know if our first bit of VAFA Tragics trivia for the year. Name the side that has not led all day from the first siren to the last siren, yet still won the game. What's the answer, Martin?
The jacket tells the story.
It's true though, De La Salle never led all day, and they've won with a kick after the siren.
That's quite correct, and it was a big disappointment for all Zav's people, but it was a game. It was a great contest. It wasn't much of a spectacle, I've got to say, but it was sometimes the games between Zavs and De La aren't great spectacles. It was hard and it was fair, and it was a very good game.
They're very tense games of footy, and I think that would be highlighted by the continual contest after contest after contest, and no more so than that last 2 or 3 minutes.
Let's have a look at some of that footage of the last minute of play or so, and this is as we roll from this last stoppage here. I was having a look at it on the video myself, and I thought De La Salle from this stoppage not trying to actually grab the ball, because we know the tactic of Zaz over so many years has been knock it to feet, get the stoppage and hold up for the win. But it feels like De La Salle just trying to keep the ball moving constantly.
Yeah, I don't know about that, Andrew. The conditions were fairly slippery. I mean, there were a lot of ball ups and a lot of contest, and the last 5 minutes of the game really were. De La was pumping the ball forward, the Zavs were pumping it out, back in it had come, and really until the last play that you'll see, it was the first time that De La had an opportunity in that 5 minutes to actually do something, and they did it right in the nick of time.
Let's talk about the unfortunate situation of this contest as we see the football come in to the De La Salle inside 50. Harrison comes out and takes the mark, but Mick Hannon on the deck there, what's gone on?
Well, he's clearly slipped over or had contact with someone as the ball's coming in, fallen to the ground and done himself a knee injury. I'm not sure of the extent of that injury at the moment. I guess we'll find out shortly. I know he's had an MRI or 2 on it already, but I think on Saturday night certainly people were hopeful that it wouldn't be a season ender, that it was something a little bit less severe.
He has had his knee taped up now for a couple of years. He's been, certainly when I've seen Michael play, seen his own reserves, he's always had that knee heavily strapped. So I just wonder whether or not there's a pre-existing or had he injured it previously. But look, it's terrifically unfortunate because he's a terrific amateur. He comes from a terrific amateur family with Peter, is his dad, and his brother also last year won the under-19 section of Premier Grade best and fairest as well as the goal kicking. So, I mean, just terrible outcome.
We see the DLSL players celebrating there. It meant a big deal for them to get this win and their first win of the season.
Oh, look, it's a monkey off the back too in many regards. I mean, you do want to get off to the right start. But, I mean, as we also made the comment, I mean, we've been on unfortunate outcomes before from the old Zabs. 2009 grand final.
Let's not go into those, Marty. Let's not drag those back.
No, but they do sear because, I mean, Zabs then go in with a belief. When it matters, we win. That's almost the belief that exists. That permeates around the competition. I mean, what did we say in the preview? Never write off the Zabs.
Brenton, you were having a look at Old Scotch and Collegians, and Old Scotch are better than I think we all gave them credit for, certainly in our pre-season predictions.
Yeah, and are we confirming that they're the real deal yet, or not? Is it too early to tell?
I don't think you can make a call, really, on any team until the halfway point of the season.
That's fair enough.
I think we shape up and we have a look and we think, well, they're going well or they're not going so well. But let's leave it till after round 9 when everyone's played each other to find out who the better teams are. And even then, they're the better teams at that stage and not necessarily those who are going to contend.
I got an interesting text along those lines on the weekend. Is the 4 done with the way it sits at the present time? Too early to say that?
I think it's too early. Coming off last year was an even year in Premier, and it seems to be that, look, Old Trinity and Old Scotch, they're the front runners at the moment. But I think it is what Marty said. Mike said. It is too early to say. We've had 3 rounds in. Maybe wait until everyone's played each other. Maybe I'm not sure.
Unfortunately, with the draw, it doesn't work out that way this year because I think there's a few games where you play the side before you played every other side happening before round 9.
Yeah, I'm just going to say I don't think the 4's done. In fact, I've made some notes where I've actually said that if you look at the top 3 sides at the moment, or in terms of 3 of the top 4, St Bernard, Scotch and Blues, all of them are averaging over 100 points. The one that is not is Trinity. Now, we've all raved about how great they are. They've had 20 shots at goal in the first 3 rounds, in each game in the first 3 rounds. And they're averaging just on 74 points a game.
It's an interesting point. Fitsy, you had a look at Old Trinity's win over Old Carey.
Yeah, they did. They went in behind at half time and came out with all guns blazing. Ben Howell kicked 2 lovely third quarter goals of his 3 for the game. Tinney and Yetzi got into it. They looked really good in that third quarter and really picked up their scoring 5 goals to zip.
Except for this little kick from Tinney here.
Yeah, Harry, well, you know, with a little bit of luck, if the players hadn't done their job in going back to the goal square, with a little bit of luck, it might have actually gone through.
I'm not too sure about that one, but they're still going well, Old Trinity.
Well, you can't do any better than 3-0, and I mean, getting back to the premiership ladder, I haven't even looked at the ladder, looked at the percentages, because it is early days, and we are going to see a lot of changes to conditions, changes to teams, players coming in, players going out for various reasons. And I think it is certainly too early to tell. It's never decided this early. It might be that the same 4 are the 4, but that doesn't mean it's decided. That's why we're going to play the next 15 weeks.
I guess from the ladder, the only thing we can take away is that Collegians and Blacks, as they were last week, are still filling the bottom 2 places, and they play each other this week. It's a huge game for both clubs.
Now, Collegians weren't disgraced against Old Scotch. Around the stoppages, around the contest, their intensity and effort was there, but they just lacked. They had Taft up forward, but they just lacked probably 2 or 3 other targets up forward to centre that really polish him off. But Old Scotch really controlled the ball well after half time, and they just ran away with it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of Collegians or Blacks at this stage.
Do they rely too heavily upon Taft to be the player to kick goals?
Well, probably, yes. Yeah.
So do they need to find someone else? Is there anybody?
Well, that's what Fergus Watts was brought in for, wasn't it?
Well, they've got Croft and they've got Corp when they're playing.
And Corp was good. Corp was really aggressive around the stoppages. I was really impressed with his game. But up forward, he missed a few that he should have taken. So as a ruckman, he was good, but up forward, not so.
I want to talk about the misses, because the key forwards missing set shots a goal is a bit of a bugbear, I think, for everyone, and particularly for the coaches, no doubt, and the way they go. But to St Bernard's and Bo Morris, St Bernard's obviously winning. Bo Morris were by no means poor, they were excellent, in fact. Just St Bernard's just a little bit more polished forward of centre. But to Chad Jones back in the side after missing last week, comes in and again has a number of misses, as do a few of the key forwards for St Bernard's. If you're having a look at these set shots now, they've kicked 13-17 on the day. In round one, as you'll see the numbers on the screen now, they kicked 10-15, when Jones that day kicked 1 goal for himself. And going back to the prelim final last year when they kicked 5-22. St Bernard's obviously building, but you want to be kicking. Are they doing goal kicking practice?
Well, it is a bugbear of all coaches, obviously, and we'd love to see our teams, we'd love to see the opposition miss, and we'd love to see our teams kick goals. The simple fact is that sides that kick incredibly well and straight one week might be, back to the field or even worse the next week. And that happens in league football, and it happens in our competition too. Same players, same shots, different result.
They're getting the ball in there enough. 2-4 is disappointing from his perspective, and no doubt he'd be disappointed, but there's 13-17 being kicked. What was the second highest or the highest score in Premier on the weekend? So, look, let's not read too much into it. I mean, 5-22, that's an aberration on preliminary final day. However, you can't. They won't go through the season kicking more behinds than goals. Otherwise, I'd suggest that Anthony Rock will be kicking plenty of their behinds.
Final game of the round was the Uni Derby at University Oval. Fantastic service as there was at all grounds before that preceded this game. Blues, I think we have to really sit up and take notice of them as, in my mind, they're the front runners. I tipped them pre-season. I think they're going beautifully at the moment. They were stronger around the contest. It was an incredibly physical game at the Uni Oval, and they seemed to play better wet weather football against a black side that was lacking in experience for a number of the different lines in their team.
Now, what's going on down at Blacks? Now, is it a personnel thing? Is it?
I think there's no doubt they're missing key personnel.
Yeah.
That's playing a real part in how they're travelling at the moment. But we raised complacency the other week, and maybe it is premiership hangover.
Andrew, I haven't seen the tape yet, and I'll have a look at that, but is it true that Bede Martin, the gun midfielder from Blacks, was assigned a tagging role on the weekend?
It seemed like he was going with a run-with role on Ross Young, and they sort of, to an extent, nullified each other. Youngie didn't have his best game either, but Martin, I think, needs a bit more of a chop out in the midfield at the moment for Blacks.
Which we highlighted last week.
Yep.
When we did run some footage, and we saw that he was left one out at one stage there, but also their on-ballers probably weren't being as physical or as aggressive as they were the previous
There's no doubt they're missing Willingham as well in the ruck as that big body around the contest, and by virtue of that, Patterson's playing in the ruck, and so you take him out of the goal scorer, it just messes with their whole structure completely at Blacks at the moment.
Yeah, but it's not a great start, is it? I mean, look, they themselves, I mean, surely they're good enough to overcome that. I mean, they would have been through adversity. They wouldn't have had 22, or their best 22 fit every single week last year. They would have actually had to overcome adversity at some stage. So why the huge turnaround has been posed already? Well,
you talk about the four, and I raised whether the four set. I don't think Blacks, on what they've shown today, can make the finals and defend their title this year. And I think that at this stage, and it's early going, but they've got to be thinking about winning their 7 or 8 games.
I think finals should be the first thing from their mind. They have to consolidate their position in Premier, otherwise they're going to do what St B's maintained did and go back down to Premier B and then have to fight their way to get back up.
Fair enough, we'll move on. In Premier B, St Kevin's and Old Brighton are still leading the way. They both had big wins. Scobbers over OMs at the Junction Oval. They're going beautifully at this time of year, St Kevin's.
That was an outrageous result when you consider that OMs have started the season relatively well with 2 wins. So both teams go in, both teams unbeaten. You'd expect a much closer contest than that. And to see that score would either suggest that Scob got on a roll and were away and everything went right. OMs must have had a horrible day. Or did they have players out?
Not sure on that one. In Premier C, it was the section of the close ones, that's for certain. Old Haileybury with a kick with just 6 seconds left, and you'll see on the videotape here, and we're not quite sure what the 25-metre penalty is for. but they get the 25-metre penalty, which brings the player Toy within range, and Jordan Toy goes back and slots the goal to give Old Haileybury the lead against Pegs by 3 points, and they go back to the middle. 6 seconds later, the siren sounds. Old Ivanhoe hung on against Old Camberwell, and we were concerned about Old Camberwell's fortunes, but they've run Old Ivanhoe very close there at Gordon Barno. But unfortunately, of course, not getting the points in the final one, Peninsula, they kept their winning run alive with a goal win over Williamstown CYMS.
So are they the real deal in Premier C? Now, I know it's early, and you said we're not allowed to look at the ladder, but most people do. You'd rather be 3 and zip than zip and 3.
I'll have more to say on that later.
Let's take a look at the rest of the competition now in the divisions.
Div 2. Now, forfeits reared their ugly head. And it is always an unfortunate position to be in when you can't field a side, but unfortunately for South Melbourne reserves, they couldn't field a side against St John's on the weekend. It's their first for the season, but as a proud club as they are, they've always been a solid club. They've always been thereabouts in Div 2, not good enough to be in the top 4, but not bad enough to get relegated. But they've seen a mass exodus, it seems, over the summer months. There's a change in coach. Anthony Quine's gone to Hampton Rovers as their reserves coach. Gary March has come on, but they're disappointing. Their seniors were very disappointing on the weekend, and they've been smashed by consecutive 100-point margins.
2 weeks in a row, mate.
2 weeks in a row, 164 points, and then on Saturday, 171. And for a club that's got, as you say, over 100 years of history and a very close association over the years with what is now Sydney, they had a very close association with South Melbourne. They were a feeder team to them in the old VFL days. That's it's very disappointing.
Yes,
they've got a massive junior program down there.
That's
too,
right.
So hopefully the future's on the upswing.
Now, St John's did all they could do. They offered them players. They did all they could do to field a side, but unfortunately they just didn't want to make the trek down to Dandenong.
It might have been the tail of the round, because there were actually 3 other forfeits on the weekend in both in the Colts, Club 18 and Premier C sections there, with Bull End Templestowe, North Old Boys St Pat's and Hampton Rovers respectively, all unable to field side. Maybe it was Anzac Day with players at various services. Perhaps it was the weather. Perhaps it's...
You'd hope it wasn't the weather. You'd hope it wasn't the weather just because
it's a winter game.
I don't know. I don't know. But in today's society, they're getting a bit precious. Some people out there.
Now, another thing in Div 2.
Yep.
Melbourne High School Old Boys cracked their 16-game losing streak against a very disappointing Parade, and the Unicorn Club would have been pumping.
They would have been at Melbourne High School Old Boys, so a great win for them in Division 2 now.
Well, you've actually left out Division 1. Bull End Temps win, upsetting the high-flying St Mary's Solution. Terrific result.
Yeah,
Now, this
win.
is St Mary's.
Very
This
good
is
win.
last year they were inconsistent away from home occasionally, and they were very good on Ferndale Park, and maybe it's rearing its ugly head again.
Oh, gee whiz. Oh, here I was pumping up Bull End Temps.
great win for Bull End Temp as well. It's a beautiful segue to head into Fitsy Fires on 5.
This week, as every week, we look at 5 aspects of amateur football. Let's go to the videotape. Number 5, Anzac Day. VAFA clubs around Melbourne conducted ceremonies with class and respect this past weekend, suitably recognising the sacrifice and gallantry of the men and women who served club and country. No mawkish look-at-me theatrics, just heartfelt tributes to real Australian heroes. We owe them plenty, and we remember them always. Number 4, umpires come and go. Benny Goodman, Timmy Sutcliffe, Russell Davidson and Steve McCarthy have all retired to lives of leisure. But not our man. 600, 700, who knows how many hundred games of Segotian rhythm will we see from that small mound of bound Kevin Chili Segota, who's still going strong and, in his heart at least, has never called one wrong. Number 3, the 40-something hipster Luke Beveridge, who refuses to buckle to the AFL corporate fashion sense and is leading the Western Bulldogs to greater heights than they've seen for years. Even Gil McLaughlin has had a trim, but not Bevo, all mane, all guns, and all good old-fashioned amateur football nous, who has his doggies strutting and playing as if they're the Wintle brothers. Number 2, still on the fashion sense. Peninsula, the Pirates, the Buccaneers of Bayside, the Marvels of Mount Eliza, 3-0 and top of the table in Prem C. Barber, Whitty, Coghlan and the evergreen Sean Pays are all firing, and the team is reaching high. If it's ever been a good time to wear chocolate and blue, that time it seems is now. with Ormond in the same shade and the same colour combo, also unbeaten and a top Division 1. And number 1, still on fashion sense, Jack Watts. No, not Jack Watts, that one-time rumoured old Brighton 2015 Recruit of the Year, but Jack Watts, the Uni Blues big man, who was all too often committed football fashion faux pas. Gone are the faded blue socks, gone are the hideous bike shorts, providing the reach and influence of VAFA tragics on Ammo Nation. Jack, the only thing left for you is to improve your spelling. And that's it for me.
Good on you, Fitsy. Fitsy firing on 5 there. Let's get into Marty Kelleher's Wine of the Week.
This week, Andrew, it's Turak Cabernet Sauvignon. Turak, one of the first families of Australian wine. This 94-point wine in the James Halliday Wine Companion. This wine is available for club members, for VAFA member clubs for $15. Recommended retail price $21.99. So why not? Why not, mate? Do yourself a favour, as one fellow used to say who wore a hat. Get in contact with the VAFA, get in contact with me, sign your club up so you can use these at your lunches, and particularly as what is coming up, it's lunch season with Mother's Day. So we'll do a Sparkles next week. Now, I was going to do brickbats and bouquets, but I've been informed that bouquets aren't allowed for my Wine of the Week. So we want to talk about jumper clashes.
Yep.
Did we see the footage? We did see the footage.
We did see the
before.
footage, yeah.
And were you taking note of that footage there?
We'll roll it again for you.
Here we are, there's a 25-metre penalty paid. We don't know why, we don't know who's got the ball. The only way we can tell is because of the faded grey shorts that the player's wearing. We know he's from the away side. But what are those two clubs doing not wearing a clash jumper?
That's Pegs and Old Haileybury you're talking of.
Exactly. Yeah. And then think about this, in Div 1 we've got the chocolate and royal blue clash in a couple of weeks' time where Peninsula will be playing Ormond. What are they going to be doing with the clash jumpers? They're not.
No,
how dare they?
You don't listen. Peninsula's in Premier C.
That's why I need to sell more wine.
Good on you, Marty. Marty Kelleher's Wine of the Week there. Hope you've enjoyed it. It's been great fun bringing you the VAFA Tragics. We'll see you again next week.